All right, welcome back to our prediction videos. This is NFL predictions part 3. This is for the East divisions, AFC East and NFC East. So let's get right into it. This time we're going to start off with Kean first. Who is in fourth place in the AFC East, Kean?
For me, in fourth place in the AFC East is the New England Patriots with a 5-12 record. I don't think the Patriots are very good.
Bold.
I think Drake May will end up being probably a good quarterback, but they don't have the best offensive line. Uh, they don't have the most proven receiving room, and they they don't have uh, like enough on defense, I guess,
Yes.
um, to beat any of the rest of the AFC East this year. I don't think they. Well, they were bad last year, and I don't think they're going to improve a lot this year. So I have them in fourth.
I'm going to one up you on that. I think they're worse than they were last year. Bill Belichick is gone. Mac Jones is gone. Barremo's hurt. Matthew Judon is gone. And they drafted Drake May. But that's just the beginning. They need help. And you know what? I'm not going to dig too deep into it. I'm just going to revel in it. We've had the Patriots shoved down our throats for the last 20 years, mostly because they've played in almost every other Super Bowl in that time span, and tired of it. And I'm going to enjoy these years of the Patriots being bottom dwellers. So I'm not going to really give you any great analysis here, and just that I'm going to enjoy how bad their roster is and how much of a dumpster fire they're going to be this year. I have them at 3-14. I think that they're garbage, and I'm happy for it. Anyways, who do you got in third place, Kean, in the AFC East? AFC East.
Okay. In the AFC East, at third, I have the Miami Dolphins with a 10-7 record. I think the Dolphins, they went 11-6 last year, and they have a great offense, and I don't think that will change. I think they'll still have a great offense, and their defense, they've added some new pieces, like they drafted Chop Robinson, who should make an impact while Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb aren't doing so great.
Mm-hmm. Still recovering.
Yeah. But I don't think they've added enough, and I think the other two teams will be able to win more games, and I think the Dolphins will make it tough, and they could end up winning the division, but I don't think, I think they have the worst chance out of the top three teams.
I agree with you. I have them in third place, but I have them in 9-8. I don't think that I think they're going to fall off a little bit. Too many injuries. The loss of Vic Fangio to a defense. They basically ran him out of town because they didn't want to play hard enough for him. I don't know. Vic Fangio's old school. I thought it meant a lot to that defense. I think their offensive line is still suspect. Their success is predicated on Mike McDaniel's ability to call innovative plays and get the ball out of Tua's hands quickly. Obviously, they have amazing speed on this team, and offensively, they're still going to be fun to watch. But their record was predicated on wins against weaker opponents, and anytime they played a tough team, it showed. Anytime they played in the cold, it showed. So, sadly, they're going to fall off a little bit. I'm sure they'll have some exciting outputs. I don't think they're going to drop 70 again, but I just don't think they're going to be competitive as they were last year. So I have them falling to 9-8 out of the playoffs. Who you got in second place, Kian?
In second place, I have the New York Jets. I think if Aaron Rodgers stays healthy and plays well,
Mm-hmm.
this team will succeed. They have a lot of pieces. They had a lot of pieces last year, but I think their situation has just gotten better, and their offensive line improved. They brought in Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, and even drafted Olu Fashanu in the first round. And I think their offense should be good. Garrett Wilson is still great,
Mm-hmm.
and Brees Hall is still great, and their defense is still great. So I think it's going to be tough to beat them because if you can't score against their defense, they're going to score against yours. But I think we haven't really seen it yet from the Jets. It's really just been what we think they can do. So I only have them winning 11 games and going second in the division.
I also have the Jets going second, but 10-7. I think they're barely going to sneak in. They have a weird roster where they have a bunch of young, great stars and Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, Sauce Gardner, Quinton Williams, and then they got a bunch of old guys. You know, Aaron Rodgers, old. Tyron Smith, old. You know, these old guys that are trying the second part of their career. So it's a really interesting mix of really veterans that are kind of over the hill and a bunch of young, great talent. And the problem for them, in my opinion, is not this mix of talent and where it is their coach. The coach has never had a winning record. I know he's never had a great quarterback, but still never had a winning record, never sniffed it. And they have an OC that, according to only Aaron Rodgers, is good. So, not necessarily a proven track record. So, I'm a little skeptical. All that said, their roster is very, very good. And amazingly, they won 7 games last year with maybe the worst quarterback play in the league. So if they could just be a little bit better, I think they'll be much improved. If Brees Hall stays healthy, that's the biggest thing to me. If they can run the football really well, it's going to take a lot off Aaron Rodgers' plate. But I have them finishing second in the division at 10-7.
Okay, at number one for me is the Buffalo Bills, with also an 11-6 record, winning the tiebreaker over the New York Jets. I think the Bills, they they are trying to become more of a newer team, keeping some good pieces, but the defense has changed a lot, and there's still a lot of great players, and Josh Allen will still be able to make plays, and I don't think the loss of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis will hurt too much. I think Keon Coleman will probably be good. So I think the Bills will still hold their own in any tough games, and they have been the best team in this division. So I think that is going to stay the same this year, and I have them winning the AFC East.
I have them winning as well at 11-6. I think maybe their talent has fallen off a little bit, but I think they adapted really well at the end of the season. They kind of changed their offense. The beginning of the year, obviously we know about the firing of Ken Dorsey, but they kind of transitioned to this down from the ball down the field offense to more of a ball control, running the ball offense, using 2 tight end sets with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and just trying to control the game, in which they were pretty successful against the Chiefs in the divisional round, and they came up very close to winning that game if they had just a few more plays go their way. So I think they kind of transitioned to a different type of team, and they're trying to get younger on defense. I think Doug McDermott's going to make sure that they play good defense. Sean McDermott is going to make them play good defense, good enough in this division at least to win it. So the record, they're not going to be as great, but I think Josh Allen is just force to be reckoned with, and they're going to win this division. So give me the Bills at number 1. All right, Ken, NFC East. Who do you have in 4th place?
In 4th place, I have the Washington Commanders going 4-13. I think maybe they could win more games than this. I think Jane Daniels will play well, and I think he probably will be a good quarterback for them in the long run. But they don't really have a great receiving room out of Terry McLaurin. They still don't have a great offensive line. And on the defense, they aren't great at cornerback. They just I mean, Jonathan what's just forgot his name for some reason.
It's okay.
But,
Keep moving. Keep going.
John Payne as well. Still great.
Jonathan Allen on the defensive line?
Yeah, Jonathan Allen. And Dan Quinn can hopefully help with that defense, but they don't have much talent. I don't think they're going to be able to score that much, even with Jane Daniels. So I have them finishing 4th with a 4-13 record.
Okay. In 4th place, I have the New York Giants, and I have them going 5-12. Sorry, Giants fans, but you're stuck with Daniel Jones for another year. Malik Neighbors is going to light up your life and make some amazing plays. I think that's great, but I think losing Saquon Barkley, who basically was your offense last year, is going to hurt. I know you improved your offensive line a little bit, and getting Brian Burns is great. Losing Xavier McKinney, though, hurts. And I just don't trust this team at all right now. And I feel like they don't have a great vibe going. And Brian Daboll, I think, is a smart mind, but I think he's going to prove he's not really a head coach worthy, and he's more of a good offensive mind. I just don't trust this team at all. And so I have them finishing in 4th at 5-12. Who you got in 3rd place, Kim?
In 3rd place, I have the New York Giants with a 6-11 record. I think this is kind of the middle ground of where they'll finish. Daniel Jones isn't very good, and Malik Neighbors will be great. I think probably. He's very explosive and will be a big weapon in this offense. But other than that, their offensive line is still developing, and they've got some pieces, but the Giants' offense is just not good. Their defense has some good players. Deontay Banks will hopefully develop. And, of course, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns are both incredible.
Right.
But this team has not been good, and I agree. I don't think they're very trustworthy. So I don't think they really have a chance at all in the NFC East.
Alrighty. My 3rd place team is the Washington Commanders, and I have them at 6-11. This roster still needs a lot of work. Offensive line. Jane Daniels is just going to get a lot of rushing yards this year just out of pure survival. And I hope he doesn't get hurt. I really do. Because it's fun to have young, exciting quarterbacks, and I like seeing people play healthy. Their defense is, interesting mix of, some good defensive line, but I don't think their secondary is going to be very good. And, Dan Quinn had a head coaching stint in Atlanta, and he was decent, right? Obviously, he got to the Super Bowl 51. We know how that turned out, but I think he deserves a second shot. I just think it's going to take a couple years to overhaul a really bad roster. And starting with Jayden Daniels is a good start. Next year, I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted a bunch of offensive linemen and really try to rebuild that line because they're going to need it. So I think the future is bright in Washington. It's just not bright right now. So I had them at 3rd, 6-11.
Okay, at number 2 for me is the Dallas Cowboys with an 11-6 record. The Cowboys are still pretty good. CeeDee Lamb is basically all they have as a weapon for Dak Prescott to throw to, except for maybe, I guess, Jake Ferguson. And they, of course, aren't great at running back, and they just don't have that many playmakers on this offense. And the offensive line is still kind of figuring it. They're still kind of figuring that out. The defense will hopefully still be good. Dron Bland's injury is going to hurt, but this team is still good, and they'll find a way to win games, and definitely, I think, be better than the Giants and the Commanders. But I don't think they will get the one seed, or the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Finished first in their division. I agree with you. I have them at second in the division. I have them only going 10-7. The problem for me with the Cowboys is their roster got worse. They went bargain shopping at running back. Never a great idea, but they didn't really draft well in that position. It was a weak running back draft, as we know. But they didn't really find that solution. Their interior offensive line is decent, but the tackles are question marks, right? So, and I think their defensive line is still good, but their secondary, could be suspect. Mike McCarthy's still calling the plays. He's going to find a lot of interesting ways to get the ball in CeeDee Lamb's hands. So they're going to be a Dallas team. They're going to look like a superstar team one week, and then the next week you're going to go, what? But what happened? Huh? And that's just going to be their season. I think they go 10-7, maybe get in a wild card spot, which they'll probably just get destroyed in the playoffs again. Who do you got number one, Kian?
At number one, I have the Philadelphia Eagles with a 12-5 record. I think they will win this division. I think they had a pretty great draft, getting Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean to help with an aging cornerback room.
Yes.
Will help a lot. I think they will make. I think they'll be big difference makers. If it isn't this year for Philadelphia, I think it will be next year. Of course, the Saquon Barkley signing is really big for them. I think they have, of course, a great offensive line, and they have Jalen Hurts, and they can just run the ball all day. And if not, they can still pass the ball well, and the defense will still be great. Of course, they got new coordinating with Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio, who should help. And I don't think they're going to just completely collapse like they did last year. So I think they will win this division and have a pretty good playoff run.
All right. I agree. I have the Eagles at 1. I have them 11-6, one win less. The talent on this team is undeniable. They've drafted really well on defense. I'm hoping Vic Fangio can get him to the shape. I think their coordinator last year on defense was atrocious. Their schemes were bland, pretty easy to read. They would line up in cover 2 shell and just say, hey, this is what we're running. There was no disguise, there was no nothing, and they got picked apart. So they smartly realized the error of their ways. They brought in a smart defensive coordinator, a veteran defensive coordinator, Vic Fangio, an exciting offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. The problem for this team is, and the scary part, is you all lost your locker room leader in Jason Kelly on offense. You lost your locker room leader on defense in Fletcher Cox. So who's leading this team? We both know Jalen Hurts. We all know that Jalen Hurts is a quiet leader. Kind of leads by example, not very vocal. So who's going to step up and be the vocal leader in that locker room? Is it Lane Johnson? Or is it Darius Slay? Who's going to step up and fill those shoes? If no one does, could be a long season in Philadelphia. Could be scary. But I think they'll figure it out, even if Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts don't like each other. Anyways, all right. That is our NFC and AFC East predictions. We'll be back with our last part of the divisional breakdown. Thank you for watching.